I can't wait to show you how to make this zigzag throw. This is a cool, funky take on a chevron stitch, but it's made with your fingers. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not. We're working with some loops yarn, and today we're going to work it up, showing you how to do everything here, including a bonus to fix this edge treatment here. Plus, I can show you how to make it all flat if you want. Stick around for it on Good Knit Kisses. Welcome to Good Knit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. The zigzag throw works as a chevron stitch, and it's a series of decreases on one side, increases here, decreases in the middle, and then repeating over and over. It actually works over a repeat of 13 stitches. So this is actually from here to here is one repeat, and then we have another. So on my sample here, I'm only working 2 repeats. So if you want to learn with 2 repeats and get the idea down, then you can do that. If you want to make the whole width of the blanket, then you can do that as well, and I will give you the loop count for that. It is 13 stitch multiple, so if you want to make it wider, go for it. Make it bigger. If you want to make it half that size, that's your prerogative. So whatever size you want to make it, just know that you need a multiple of 13 stitches. Be sure and click on the link in the description below to get the pattern. You want to get that off of the Michaels website, and you just hit the little tab and it will give you the instructions. And then you want to get your yarn, so we'll put that information here now. This pattern uses 2 colors of Loops and Threads Loops Boucle yarn. This is color A, Hopi Corn, and color B, Mustard Seed. You need 5 balls of each color. So now that you have your yarn and supplies, we will begin. I'm going to show you an alternate. This is the edge treatment as it is in the pattern. I've got an alternate here, and if you can see, I've got this actually all laying flat, so that's a different way to do it. But down here at the bottom, if you see, I've got this really cool chain edge on here, so I'm gonna give you a little bitty tweak to the pattern, and then I'll show you how to make it in this way. It gives you this cool little raised design on it, and it kind of gives you a funky new twist on a chevron. To begin, you're going to want to take the wrappers off of your yarn. So what I do is I take them off and then I squish it like this. It kind of makes a ball, and then I find my end. It's in here somewhere. There we go. Here's my end. And then I'm just going to put this in a bowl or something down off to the side so that it's not going to get caught in anything. It doesn't roll around and catch things. And then we're going to start. All right, so set your things aside and get ready. Be sure that you have a pair of scissors handy and a locking stitch marker, and we're going to use that just for marking in the very beginning. All right, so I want to go ahead and cut open the first couple of loops. I'm going to use that for a tail to weave in later. You can sew it in, or you can weave it in with a tapestry needle. So just open them up by going up to the loop side here and just cutting the thread in between. Okay, it won't damage the yarn. So now we have a nice little tail, and this is where you're going to count out however many loops you need to start the project. For the zigzag throw, you're going to count out 78 loops, and then you can put a stitch marker on that first loop. I'm going to teach you a slightly different method so that you can change the edging. You can have this crocheted edging, or you can start with this one too and finish it off later if you want. If you want to do it later, you're going to want to count out however many loops that you need for the beginning part and cut it, like just cut it here and then set it aside, because you will be using that later on. Now, if you do that, go ahead and add in like 2 or 3 extra loops so you have a tail for weaving in. Okay, so this is how I'm going to do it to start off. I'm counting off 26 for my small sample, but you want to count out 78, and you'll count that number, put your stitch marker, and then you're going to count it again. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm at my counted stitch, and I'm going to just put my stitch marker in that loop and then count again the same number. So I have my loop, and down here is where my my marked loop is. So I'm actually going to work the first row starting at this second loop that I counted all the way until the loop just before the stitch marker, and then this is just going to hang for the first several rows, and then I'll show you how to work this in and finish off the beginning before you even finish, so you don't have this hanging around all the time. So I'm going to put this tail towards me, And we're going to be working with the ball yarn at the back. Okay. I'm going to get this all laid out flat so you can see that I'm not twisting my loops. And then we're going to be starting to work from right to left. Whether you're right or left-handed, we're going to be working right to left, left to right. And so you're going to want to just fold over the loops as I show you for certain decreases or increases. All right, so grab this loop here, and then we're going to work with the ball yarn. Okay, the working loop is at the back here, and it's going to be pulled up through these stitches here. But what we need to do for the very first stitch is an LDR, a loop decrease right. So we're going to take our first loop and our second loop and put the second loop on top of the first loop. And then take your ball yarn and bend it towards the back here and take that loop, the very first one, and put it up through these two loops. All right, so you've now decreased right. You're going to go to the next loop and pull up the next loop on your ball through that loop, and that is a loop knit. You want 3 more loop knits, so pull through 2, 3, 4. Okay, then we're going to go on to the next one where we increase. The way you increase is you just don't work that next loop on the ball, and then the one right after that we're going to loop knit. So we're going to take the next loop after that on the ball and put it through our next loop on our main thread here. And we're going to pull that loop up and through, so you've got 1 loop knit, and then you want another increase. Okay, we're actually working this section right here. So we just started here, worked our 4, and now we're going to increase here, loop knit, and another increase here to make this little gap here. Okay, and then we move on to our next, and we're going to do 4 in a row of the loop knit. So we've skipped 1, loop knit, that's 1, and then we got 2, 3, make sure you're not twisting your stitches, and 4. Okay, and now we're going to LDL, loop decrease left. So we're going to take the first loop and the second loop, and we're going to put the first loop on top of the second loop, and then pull through a stitch, just as we did before. So this is a loop decrease left. Okay, so that's this part here. And then we want to do another loop decrease right. So this is actually where our stitches start repeating. So you're going to do what you just did that first time, and you're just going to keep repeating it. So we're going to take the first and second loop, and we want to put the second on top of the first, and then pull through. And the way I remember this is when I get to this middle section here, I just remember I put the first on the second, and then I do the second on the first, and that's easy to remember, right? And it's just kind of the opposite when you start at the end here. You start with the second on the first. And then when we finish out the row at the end, you're going to do this one here, the loop decrease. Actually, no, it's this one here, loop decrease left. All right, so then we move on to the next ones, and we're just going to loop knit 4 times, just like we did. So this is just the repeat section here. Loop knit 1, and then 2, 3, 4, and then we want an increase, so we leave it blank and do 1 loop knit, increase, and then loop knit 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And on this first row or two, it can be a little fiddly, but it works out, I promise. All right, and then we want our very last 2 stitches, and ta-da, you can see where I had my stitch marker, right? And we've been ignoring this tail this whole time. So now we want to finish out our row. So if you've been on your 78 stitches, you're going to want to pause the video and catch up to this point. So pause your video until you've got the last 2 stitches. I'm going to take my last 2 stitches, and I'm going to loop decrease left. So my loop decrease left, we're putting the first loop in front of the second loop, and then we reach through both of the loops from front to back. You can pull it this way. I like to actually back to front push it through, but technically you're supposed to just pull it through. Okay, so that decreases it, and now we're on to where this little stitch marker is. You can actually pull the stitch marker off and then let it dangle, and if you want to set your stitch marker here, just so you know where you ended your row, then that's fine. Just let this kind of hang for a few rows and we'll come back to this. All right, so now you want to go back through these stitches and you want to knit every loop that you see. We're going to loop knit, but we're not turning our work. In needles, we would flip it over. So we're just going to put our loop at the back and pull it through, okay, and make a knit stitch and continue across. So you might want to pull out some more yarn and set it to the side. And I'm going to pull this through. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure not twist it. 6. Okay. That 6th one was the one that was hanging out there like an increase. Okay, so now it's being reinforced by that. Now we're going to go to the 7th one, which is where that middle section is, in between the 2 increases. Now we have another increase. So make sure that you're not skipping any of these. All right, and then you just continue on. So you should have the same number when you get back to the other side, because all of the decreases will be evened out by all of the increases. So continue until you get to the end of your row, and I'll see you on row 3 for the continued pattern. See you soon. All right, so we're ready for row 3. We do not turn our work. Now, if you notice, I'm saying to do not turn your work, do not turn your work. Well, in fact, on this pattern, you will sometimes turn your work. So that's why I'm pointing it out to you so strongly right now. So right now on this row, we do not turn, but we will at the end of it. So this row right here is an exact repeat of row 1, except that we will turn our work afterwards. So here we go. We're going to LDR. Make sure our loops are nice and flat. See how you can see the V stitches? And then we're going to put the 2 on the 1. Okay, so second loop on the first loop. Then we're going to pull through one of these loops and make a knit stitch. And then we come over here and we do 4 of the loop knit stitches. And continue just as you did before. So pause your video, meet me back up at the end of row 3, and we will turn and continue. I'll see you soon. Okay, so the rest of the row 3 is you want to LDL, which is taking the first loop onto the second loop, pulling through to make a knit stitch, and then turn. So you can see that it's starting to take shape here, but the end of row 3 is turn. So row 4 is actually the same as row 2, because now that you're turned, you actually just knit all the stitches across, which what happens is you end up with this purl bump on the opposite side. So we just want to work all the stitches across, so make sure that you're moving your ball yarn to the back like this. Okay, now you can lay this on a table and work the stitches, like or hold them up in the air like I've been doing. Let me show you what it looks like on the table. So this is laying it flat. You can see all of these loops hanging out here. And we want to bend that yarn to the back and push that loop on through. And you're just going to knit across, or LK, loop knit across. Make sure you're picking up all of those stitches. It's easy because they're kind of laying curled, or they're see how they're kind of moving backward like this. So you want to make sure that you get all of them. This row I actually like to pick up instead of lay it flat. So just work all the way across. Do not miss one of your increase stitches. And if you need to count it at the end of the row, until you get the habit of doing this, I think it's easier just to make sure that you've got all your increases. Just check for 2 increases every time and 2 decrease stitches that you did. All right, so be sure and pull the loop from the back toward the front and continue. So do not turn at the end of this row, and we'll continue on to row 5. All right, pause your video and I will see you in a moment. All right, row 5, we're going to be working in the opposite direction. And because we're working the opposite direction, our 1s and 2s are going from left to right. Now at the end of row 5, we will not be turning as well on this row. So on an LDR, which is the first stitch in this row, we're going from putting the 2 loop on top of the 1 loop, okay? So then we're going to go around and knit this, and then work your 4 stitches. So 1, 2, working those loop knit stitches, 3, and 4. And because we're working opposite, I'm just going to go ahead and show you all of these in this first sequence. Okay, and then we want to we want to increase, and so leave one blank, and then work that middle one through, leave another one blank, and then work through that one. So that's an increase. I say leave it blank. It's just I'm not working those 2. And then we continue on, knitting 4, 1, 2, being careful not to twist my yarn in the back or twist one of these stitches, 3, and 4. Make sure I didn't do too many. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then I need to undo one. So it's simply just pulling one out to undo it. If you do have to set your work down, just get some scrap yarn that can go through all of these loops, these live loops, so that it doesn't pull out if you have to set your project aside. Okay, so now we want to decrease. So we're going to do an LDL, which is putting the 1 on top of the 2. So this is the 1 loop, and it's going on the 2. And pull it on through. And then we want to put the 2 on the 1. So this is the 2 going on the 1 for an LDR. Pull through. And that is going to decrease properly. And then that is where we continue. Let's see, we've got 4 more knit stitches. And then that leads up to our increase. So you've now done the repeat. Okay, so pause your video and I'll meet you back up at the end of row 5. See you soon. Okay, the end of this row, and we're going to put the first stitch, the 1, on top of the 2, and then we're going to knit that, and do not turn your work. And now we're going to repeat knitting across the entire row, and then we will turn. So it's just this series here. So it's going to look like this. This is the only time that it's on the back like that for this section, and then we will go back to the front part. Okay, so go ahead and work this next row, and then you will turn, and I will see you back at the next spot. And we'll go ahead and address this beginning part, and then you can be done with that beginning tail. All right, we'll see you soon. All right, so you can start to see your blanket shaping up. You're going to be able to get this done in just, a few hours, a weekend even. So this is going to be a really quick knit blanket. So let's make this nice clean edge like I've got it here. And we're going to work with the tail that we've already got. So we can take off this stitch marker here. Okay. So we've got the tail, and you've got your first loop on the tail. Now, if your tail is separate and you're adding it later on, you can figure out how to do this by leaving a couple of loops, and then put the first one that I tell you to do, you're going to put that loop right on in here, and then you'll use those extra loops to have a tail to weave in later. But for now, since this is already attached, it's going to make it so much easier. So I'm going to pull this first loop up through this very first stitch here so that I have something to begin on. But usually I do not start in between the stitch. So let me do that one more time. Okay, come up here closer to the camera so you can see it. I'm going to take this loop. I'm actually going to put these 2 loops together because they were meant to be worked together. I'm going to pick this loop up through those 2 loops, okay, and leave it. I'm going to call it a live stitch. I'm going to leave this live loop here. Now I'm going to bend my working tail towards the back, and we're going to go in between this first column and the second column, okay, right here where this little bar or this ladder of the stitches. And we're going to poke that on through. So that's my next live loop. We're going to go in between the next one, grab the next loop, and pull it up from the back towards the front up here like that. So you can pull it through like this, or I think that poking it up through actually works really well. So you just go down, all the way down in between the rows. So normally you wouldn't do this, but because of the nature of this edge, it actually works out really well. So once you get a few on here, you can actually start working these. This is going to be the same technique that you use for kind of a bind off. It's what looks like a bind off in regular knitting or even loom knitting. So you're going to take this first loop and you're going to be working towards where your tail is going to be, and ours is going to be on that side. So we're going to take this first loop and pull the second loop through it. That's it. Now you're going to do the next one. Pull that loop right on through it like this, up and through, and see how it's creating this little chain on the front. So pull it up and through and make sure that they're not twisting before you put it through there. Up and through, up and over, however you want to say it, and see it's got this nice chain that's developing here, and it's just covering that edge. I also did a shrug pattern, and I did this in my shrug pattern, and it finishes off this armhole really well. So if you want to get that pattern, be sure and we'll leave that in the description there so you can see. So I am going to this next section. You can see where my increases were. This is in between there, and here's this next column, and I need to get some more of these loops in here. So I'm just going to continue going along, and pause your video and meet me back up when you get to the very end. I'll show you how to finish that off. All right, see you soon. All right, I'm at the end here, and I want to go through these last two stitches here just for finishing purposes. Pull that on through. Okay, and finish out that last loop. Okay, and then I have these couple of loops on here. So I actually have some extra loops. So I can pull this one through, and I can pull the rest of it through. Okay, and then I can go ahead and cut these loops open with my scissors. And this is where you can weave in that tail. Okay, so you just take this extra yarn and put it to the back, and then you would just take a wide tapestry needle, wide-eyed tapestry needle, like something like this, if you can get that in there, or get one that has a larger eye on it, and then sew it through, weave it through here. All right, so let's continue on to the next row here. We are at row 6, where we have we finished row 6 just before here, and we're on row 7, and we're going to be working from right to left in the original way that we did rows 1 and 3. So we are not turning our work on this first color A at all. So you're just going to continue with the pattern. You're going to work all your increases and decreases along here. Then on row 8, you're going to work back this way without turning it, back over here with just knitting and working all the stitches. Then we're going to go on a row 9, which is the same as row 7. So you're going to work all of your increases and decreases. When you get to the end of the row here, you're going to meet me back up, and I'll show you how to finish this off, and we will start the new color. All right, pause your video after doing those 3 rounds or 3 rows, and I will see you soon. All right, so you've completed your first set of color A, and you're actually going to repeat this section later on after color B 3 more times. So now we're going to put on color B. So what you do is you cut 1 loop and leaving at the end of your work, and then we're going to add on the second color. Now the next row actually has a decrease at the beginning, so I'm going to show you this changing color with the decrease. So what we're going to do is make sure you've got that all cut off, and then go to your beginning strand of the other one. I like to make sure it's a nice clean loop as well. I'm going to pick up this first and second loop here, and we're going to be putting the second loop over the first, because in this round or this row, we're going to be working the same as row 1 but in the opposite direction. So the 2 is now on this side. Put that over there, and then go ahead and bring the previous loop from the color A behind it. Okay, so you've got 3 loops all together. Now you're going to go grab the loops on here. I'm actually going to grab this second one, and we're going to pull that on through. Okay, so 1 through all 3 strands. Now go on to the next loop. okay? And then we're going to pull through the next loop on your strand here, but we're also going to pull through the very first loop that we skipped the first time. So go ahead and pull that on through, and you'll have 2 loops coming through, and you're going to treat that as 1 loop when you come back the next row. So now we have a nice clean transition. There is no tail to deal with, and you've got this little ladder yarn in between. It's doubled up, but no one's really going to notice that, but it'll look like a nice transition. All right, then you just move on to the next loop and continue in your pattern. Okay, so for the instructions on here, we are in step B, which is rows 10 through 18. That's 9 more rows, just like we did on the first one, except we're working in the opposite direction. So you just had an increase row on an increase and decrease row on your first color, and now on your second color you're doing the same thing again. Now you can get into a little trouble zone here in the beginning, so I want to show you right now how to do that, and then I'll tell you how to continue on your pattern. So we've got the decrease, and then we're going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, and our fourth one actually is where one of these increases was from the previous row. So this is different looking than you've done before. So we're going to pull this through. Okay, so we've got 4 knit stitches, and then now we're going to leave an empty one for an increase. Okay, then grab our new loop. This is where you can get kind of messed up. All right, because I've actually done this and messed up and come back and said, what did I do? So now our next loop is going to pull through after skipping a loop. And now we're going to skip another loop and then grab the next one, which is one of those increases again, right? Okay, and then we're going to work our stitches. We need to work 3 more because we've already got 1 here. So 1, 2, that's the second knit stitch. Now we need to pull up the third knit stitch and the fourth, and then we're ready for another set of decreases. So we're going to put the 1 over the 2 and then work a decrease knit. So now we're ready for the next one, and we're going to put the 2 over the 1 and then work that, and we have a set of decreases. So we have our increases over here that look like this, and then our decreases, and then we continue in pattern. All right, so I'm going to continue working the next few stitches and telling you what you do in your pattern. So you're going to repeat rows 1 through 9 in rows 10 through 18. Again, you're working them in the opposite direction. So just like we're doing here now, and then you change the color back. Oops, now see, I'm going to mess up again. So let me stop for a second. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, leave that blank one, and then start working 1, leave another blank one, and then work the next one. Okay, see? All right. After you establish this, I think it's easier to see during that color, but in the very first transition, it looks a little odd. So it's easy to miss. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. So we're almost done. So once we get the next set of 9 rows done, we'll be done with this step 1 and 2, and then you're going to repeat those 2 steps 3 more times, and you'll be ready to finish off your blanket, and then you will come to the end here, okay? And then you will work just like we did in the very beginning, this beginning tail here. So you actually know already how to finish off. So you just have all your little live stitches, and you have your last tail, and then you just start at the opposite side where the little live stitch is and start lifting up and over all the way to the tail, and then you just secure it in, and you are done with your blanket. Look, you got done before you even got started. So anyway, I am ready to tell you how to make the change to make this blanket. So pause your video and come back when you are ready to know about that. I suggest that you watch through this whole video first before attempting, and then come back to it, and you can use your pause and rewind controls and slow and fast, all that, when you come back to do those stitches again. Okay, so you made it through the main pattern, and now you know how to do it with this cool little ridge on here. But what if you want to have it plain? Boop. Plain or peanut? Plain or peanut? To make the alternate pattern, be sure and find that in my blog down below. Here is the pattern for making it very flat. It's just a classic chevron stitch. So you have the classic look here. It's really flat. It's a stockinette field, and then it continues on. All right, so The way you get this done, we've got 9 rows in each, except in the color A, you actually have 5 rows that have the increases and decreases. And then the 4 rows are in between with just knit rows. But when you get to color B, you pick up and only knit across. Okay, so it's really easy. You don't have to try and remember how to do something in an opposite way. All of the increases and decreases are at the right side over here. All right, so your increases and decreases are going to be every other row. So you've got a knit row, and then you have the first set of increase, decrease, then a knit row, and then the second set of increase, decrease, knit row, third set, knit row, fourth set, and then the last row is going to be a knit row. So it's the same amount of rows, it's just the decreases and increases change. And then you tie on your next color and you repeat it 3 more times. Now, I recommend actually finishing in the same color you cast it on with, which is color A, and then finish it off. And that's how you make this pattern here. That's it. And I'll have that written on the blog below. I hope you enjoy making your zigzag throw. If you like to see more videos like this, please be sure and click down below and give me a comment. I love to see what you guys want me to make. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure and do that. Thank you so much to Michaels for letting me teach your pattern and feature your yarn. I really appreciate that. If you want to see more, let us know. Be sure and like that video. Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.